the Tudor's Dynasty Podcast.
Here we are in Plymouth, and that name probably rings a bell to most of you listening if you're American, because this is where the Mayflower launched from. And I am here with a friend of the show, I want to say business partner, but I don't know if that's even...
Guide.
My tour guide on this trip, Nigel Scarr. Nigel has taught me a lot about this location, and to my right, which we'll show you in a little bit, is where we are told that the people got on the Mayflower, right? Where the steps are.
Yeah, so to satisfy the interest of tourism, we've got a great set of ornate steps with a great arch over them and plaques saying how the Mayflower left at such and such from this point. But it's not true. They left from here, they left from this point, but actually the original steps were nearer the wall as it was with the deep harbour here. And there's a pub across the road. The steps are no longer really visible, but if you go to the ladies' toilets, that's where the steps were.
So I might have to go to the toilet to see where the steps were.
It doesn't ruin it. The list of people that have left from here across the globe, to America, to Australia, to New Zealand, great explorers have left from this point. It doesn't ruin that atmosphere. And it's designed to enhance and focus your thoughts on what's going on here. But it's in the toilets you want to go.
Yes, yes. And Nigel told me a really great story. I don't know if you can see behind us or not. There is a tower. Nigel, can you share with everybody the story of the tower?
So behind Rebecca, there's a slight rise with the bluff, and there's a little round tower. So Drake has been gone for many years, circumnavigating unintentionally around the world and picking up his goodies and his gems and his gold and fighting the Spanish, and he comes back fully laden. But his problem is he doesn't know who's actually on the throne. Has Elizabeth died? Has there been a Spanish invasion? Is Philip on the throne?
Right.
There are so many things that could have caused him a problem.
They didn't have social media back
No,
then.
so he hides his boat behind what is across the way, which is Drake's Island, and when he gets more comfortable, he unloads his ship and he puts all the gold and gems and all his precious objects in that little tower, and he sets his crew as guard on the tower. And then when he's comfortable, only then is he able to relax, when he knows that Elizabeth is still on the throne. He knows he's not going to be hung for piracy. He knows he's not going to be done as a traitor, and he knows he's going to make a few quid. So that's where we are.
Yeah, what a great story. And this is a historic place for any American. I know many people have claims to the Mayflower. I personally do not. But just imagine your family leaving from here, going to the New World, not knowing what to expect. It must have been terrifying.
It must have been very terrifying, but it was also very terrifying to stay behind. These people were escaping persecution. So to stay here was pretty much as bad as it was to launch yourself into space.
Yeah. Nigel, thank you so much for sharing this history with us.
Thanks, boss.
Okay, so we just talked about the steps when we were down by the water. Right over to my right here is where we're told the steps are. But if you look over my left shoulder and you see the Admiral McBride over there, that's actually where they are, inside the ladies' toilet, as Nigel has told us. So it's close. But I suspect, they just have to be able to have a place to market here for people to come and see and imagine what it was like. So we're close enough. Still pretty cool history, isn't it? Okay, here we are again in Plymouth. And Nigel has joined me once again to talk about this location that we're standing that's going to be of great interest to many of you. Nigel, why don't you tell us a little bit?
We're stood on Plymouth Hoe, the famous Plymouth Hoe, where Drake is playing bowls and he sees reports of the Armada sailing up the channel. And we know that actually he's cool as a cucumber and says, I'm going to finish my game of bowls. But in reality, there's nothing he can do. The fleet are in this bay here or in this neck. They're stuck. They cannot get out because the tide and the winds are against them. So there's nothing he can do anyway, except to continue playing bowls. So you can just imagine how he's on the greens here, and he's looking out to sea, and inside he must be quite frustrated, but outside he's got to keep everybody calm. And this is that famous point.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular when we stand here and look out to think of what a significant part of English history this was. Had the Spanish succeeded, England would look different today, wouldn't it?
Yeah, had they succeeded, he probably wouldn't have been alive.
More than likely.
That's sure. So he had a lot invested in making sure he got the day right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and next we're going to take you to look at the statue of Drake. And then we are also going to look at where he did his bowling, or as Nigel called it, bowls?
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 Bowling
Bowls.
is 10, it's American, it's 10 pin. Bowls is the green bowls with the jack. And it's much more, can't even say it.
Sophisticated? How did I know you were going to say that? Everything is more sophisticated.
Of course. This is England.
It is England. All right, Nigel and I were just talking about Drake and the statue of Drake, which you will see right behind me. Also, over my left shoulder here, you are going to see the bowling green. It's not bowling, like I mentioned, because Nigel said that that's 10-pin bowling, but the bowling green was right back over here. So you can imagine him standing right about in this area, kind of getting this view that you had just seen over our shoulder before, and seeing them off in the distance. It's pretty cool to be here, to be able to see this in person. As we arrived near the harbor in Plymouth, I stepped out of the vehicle and couldn't help but laugh when I spotted a place called Boston Tea Party, a local cafe serving breakfast, brunch, and coffee. I thought, how fitting for an American in England to encounter this establishment first. The harbor in Plymouth was absolutely stunning. Although it might seem like I haven't lived a sheltered life after this trip, I really have, because this was the first harbor I've ever seen in person, and it did not disappoint. The smell of the sea, the sound of the seagulls, the boats, the people, everything made me instantly want to live there. Nigel and I traveled to Plymouth to film at the steps where the Mayflower launched in 1620. While it's not Tudor history, it is a significant chapter in both English and American history. On our way to this historic spot, I encountered so many fascinating sights. I have a particular obsession with old doors and windows, and I'm always captivated by narrow walkways and alleys scattered throughout these ancient cities and villages. And with that, Plymouth did not disappoint. It perfectly embodies the image of Old England that you conjure in your mind. From the site of the steps where the Mayflower launched, we took a scenic 14-minute walk along the coastline to Plymouth Hoe. This is the historic spot where Sir Francis Drake famously played bowls as he spotted the approaching Spanish Armada. And what a vantage point it was, let me tell you. Nigel and I had a fantastic time filming there, and I can't wait to share the outtakes with you. Much of Plymouth was destroyed during the Plymouth Blitz in World War II, so I was delighted to find so much history still preserved. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Tudors Dynasty podcast. As you can tell, I had an incredible time during my trip to England, and I'm already looking forward to returning soon. If you'd like to join me on my next adventure in England, please reach out on social media or email me at rebecca@tudorsdynasty.com for more information. I'm Rebecca Larson. Until next time.
The Tudors Dynasty Podcast.